Interpreting statistical data and drawing conclusions from charts and graphs. Interpreting statistical data presented in charts and graphs is essential for drawing meaningful conclusions and making informed decisions. Here's a guide to help you interpret statistical data effectively. 1. Understand the data types. Identify the type of data being presented, e.g., categorical, numerical, and the variables involved, e.g., independent, dependent. Understand the measurement scale, e.g., nominal, ordinal, interval, ratio, to determine appropriate analysis techniques. 2. Examine the chart or graph type. Identify the type of chart or graph used to represent the data, e.g., bar chart, line graph, pie chart, scatterplot. Different types of graphs are suitable for different types of data and analytical purposes. 3. Analyze trends and patterns. Look for trends, patterns, and relationships within the data. Identify any notable changes, peaks, troughs, or anomalies in the visual representation. Consider the direction, magnitude, and consistency of trends over time or across categories. 4. Interpret axis labels and scales. Examine the axis labels, units, and scales to understand the range and magnitude of values being represented. Pay attention to the intervals, increments, and breaks on the axes to accurately interpret the data. 5. Compare and contrast data sets. Compare multiple data sets presented in the same chart or graph to identify similarities, differences, and relationships. Look for disparities, overlaps, or trends that may provide insights into comparative analyses. 6. Consider context and external factors. Consider the context surrounding the data and any external factors that may influence the interpretation. Take into account relevant background information, historical trends, demographic characteristics, and environmental factors. 7. Look for correlations and associations. Explore correlations and associations between variables depicted in the chart or graph. Determine if there is a linear or nonlinear relationship between variables and assess the strength and direction of any correlations. 8. Evaluate statistical significance. Assess the statistical significance of observed differences or relationships. Use appropriate statistical tests and measures to determine the significance level, e.g., p-value, and confidence intervals for the findings. 9. Validate data quality and integrity. Validate the quality and integrity of the data presented in the chart or graph. Check for data accuracy, completeness, consistency, and reliability. Be aware of any potential biases or errors that may affect the interpretation. 10. Draw inferences and conclusions. Draw meaningful inferences and conclusions based on the interpretation of the statistical data. Summarize key findings, trends, and insights derived from the analysis. Consider the implications of the findings and their relevance to the research or decision-making context. 11. Communicate findings effectively. Communicate your interpretations and conclusions clearly and effectively to your audience. Use descriptive language, annotations, and visual cues to highlight key points and facilitate understanding. Provide context, caveats, and recommendations as needed. By following these steps and principles, you can interpret statistical data accurately, draw meaningful conclusions, and effectively communicate insights derived from charts and graphs.